All right, greetings everybody, and welcome to week number 10. That is right, week number 10. That is five, and that is 10 of your 7314 class, which is your reference class. As always, I'm your professor, Dr. Jace K. Alston. And what we are going to do this week is a quick state of the course update. After that state of the course update, I'm going to tell you about two databases that you can use when students have basically argumentative papers or persuasive papers that they have to do. This will be relevant to public, academic, and K-12 libraries because high schools do this sort of thing, even middle schools in some places do this sort of thing. A lot of college freshmen have this type of assignment, and then also, just quite frankly, in the public library, you could get anyone at any time who is needing to do some sort of persuasive writing. So I'm going to tell you about two databases that you can use for that. I'm not actually doing tutorials. It's been a little while since I've kind of demoed a database. So what I do when I demo a database is I run through the database really quickly, show you some of its basic functions and tell you when you would use it. But then I leave it up to you to decide, okay, yeah, this is something that I can use. But if I want to use it, I am going to have to really find some tutorials and then dive into the database and get some of my own practice in order to master it. But I will introduce you to these two databases. So with that said, let's go ahead and get into that state of the course update. Pause. Okay, so as far as what is coming up on the horizon, we do actually have your next to last, your second to the last discussion board prompt that is due this coming Sunday, April the 5th, and that is going to be discussion board prompt number 6. Go ahead and get that done. I know I'm behind on grading the discussion boards. It's just been a lot, as I'm sure all of you can say, but I am going to get in and get caught up when I can. But again, this is you only have one discussion board post throughout the entire month of April. That is going to be this one coming up, and then you're going to have one that is going to be due in May on May 3rd, and that's going to be it. Okay. Now, as far as grading, I am, in addition to getting caught up on those discussion board posts and grading those out, I also need to, yes, grade out your Wikipedia edit assignments. So I am going to be working on those things over the next couple of weeks. Hopefully I'll be done with those rather quickly, but we'll see. But yes, I'm going to do it as soon as I can. I do want you all to know that, this isn't laziness on Dr. Jace's part as far as getting things graded. Because I know a lot of you are thinking, why didn't he get those things graded during spring break? And I'll tell you the reason is because I was getting caught up in grading on my cultural heritage class during spring break. I also had e-portfolios to grade, and then there were also duties not related to grading that I was taking a lot of time to do during spring break. Those included doing some I had a article to review for Public Library Quarterly, which I did that. I also had to do quite a bit of advising. There are new students coming in for the fall, and their registration is this week, so I was doing a lot of advising of them last week during spring break. And then also I have a book chapter that's coming out, and that is part of my job, because I've explained in check-in videos that I did these book chapters and things like that, and I was getting these comments back from people who were saying, well, I understand that he's doing this writing, but the teaching is his job. For those of you who don't know, the publishing presenting is also part of my job. When you are a university professor, you don't just teach. You also part of your job is to publish and present. You may have heard the term publish or perish. Even though I'm not tenure track, I still do have to write, either present at conferences and that sort of thing, or I have to write. And what I have coming up is later this year, my book chapter in an academic library's textbook will be coming out. So I was doing some work related to that as well. So I don't want anybody to think I wasn't doing anything during spring break. I absolutely was. Spring break is not a restful time for us. It's an attempt to catch up on things. But because there's a lot that professors do, we typically don't get caught up. And that's just how it goes. So if you ever want to become a professor, just know that, it's more time consuming than people think. All right. People think that I just teach 3 classes per semester and that's it. And that is far from the truth. The teaching probably is only about 45% of my time on the job. Okay. So now that I've run all that through you, Yes, I will be trying to get caught up. You got your LibGuides created as well. On that was, I believe, the week before spring break. So I did have some of you reach out to me during spring break and say that the LibGuide accounts were acting fishy for one reason or another, and that is typical. So don't worry about that. I believe I got everybody squared away who reached out to me. And thank you for reaching out to me. That's what you, again, are supposed to do when things get a little funny. Reach out to me and allow me to work my magic, as they say, and try to get those issues resolved for you. Okay. You should have started your LibGuide by now, started working on it by now. If you have not, go ahead and do that. And if you have not opened that LibApps account, you hopefully that link still works, but I might be hearing from you, so I'll just put it that way. As far as when the LibGuide is due, I don't know why that wasn't showing up over there, so we'll pull it up over here. The LibGuide is going to be due on April the 19th. All right, so you still got a few more weeks to work on that, but keep working on that. There were a ton of resources and things that I had in the last check-in video announcement. They were all related to the LibGuide, so those are some things that should help you out through that, and that includes the database issue is something that comes up a lot, and I've actually already had 2 questions about that. If you refer to that announcement, then that will tell you what to do as far as databases is concerned, because that comes up every semester, so don't feel bad that you have a question about the database thing, because again, it comes up every semester. I expect it to come up every semester, and so because it comes up every semester, I go ahead and try to get I try to actually put those directions in an announcement ahead of time, since I know that's what's coming anyway. Okay. So basically from here on out, try to have fun with those LibGuides. Keep working on those semester-long projects. Hopefully you've already started that by now as well. And, from there, also just be aware of the 2 discussion boards coming up. You don't have any more sync sessions. So it's pretty smooth sailing from here on out. And again, I don't want you to feel that the course has become dormant or anything like that, because I've gotten that complaint in the past. Again, I can't have you do the discussion boards and the semester-long project. And semester-long project is more important. It's important for you to get a feel for these different databases that you're going to explore through the semester-long project. However, I will say that if you think that I should add all that extra work to classes in the future, I guess you can let me know in the teaching evaluations. But it's kind of damned if I do, damned if I don't. If I add more discussion board prompts, then I end up with students complaining that there's too much work. If I keep them out, then students are saying, hey, the class didn't have enough discussion board prompts after a certain amount of time. So I don't really know how to balance that. If you got any ideas for that, you can always hit me up, either email if you want to do it with your name attached, or if you don't want to do it with your name attached, again, you can give me some suggestions in the student feedback. But I look forward to hearing from you all and hearing what your concerns are and that sort of thing. So the evaluations tend to be a place where people kind of let me have it, so you can go ahead and do that. All right, having said that, I believe that is it for the state of the course update. I will let you all know when I get through with grading the Wikipedia edit assignments in your section, but again, that's going to be a little while. Okay. All right, pause, and we are going to talk about those 2 databases. Give me one moment. All right, so it shouldn't take more than about 20 minutes to talk about these 2 databases that we are going to talk about. And again, these databases, the 2 databases are called CQ Researcher and Opposing Viewpoints in Context. I'm actually going to start out with Opposing Viewpoints. I don't know why it says CQ Researcher first, but I'm going to just show you both kind of superficially, let you know when you would use them, what the pros and cons are, really what the pros are in this case, and then also encourage you to look for some tutorials online if you want to actually master these databases, but I'm going to tell you when they are most useful. And in fact, I'll go ahead and do that right now. Now, I said quite a bit about when they're most useful at the beginning of the video, so there isn't too much to elaborate on there. But basically, these 2 resources come into play mostly when you have students who are trying to do like persuasive essays or persuasive speeches, or people who are on debate teams and they're trying to debate arguments, they're trying to debate issues and that sort of thing, because these two databases are specifically about opinions and viewpoints and the exchange of viewpoints and that sort of thing. So yes, you will get a lot of middle and high school students when they have to put together speeches or do debates or that sort of thing, and they'll come in either to the K-12 library or the public library to use these resources. And then also you can have college freshmen, and they may want to, a lot of times college freshmen, they may be in like communication 101 or something like that, or some sort of speech class or something like that, and they have to actually do like a basically a persuasive essay or something like that as a freshman, and they may come into the academic library to do this. So all three of our major library types are kind of covered with these two resources. So I'm going to go ahead and make myself small here, and then we are going to come here. Now, I am going to admit, and I apologize for this, I'm going to admit that I used to be really good with CQ Researcher, and then CQ Researcher, they updated their entire interface, and I have not honestly had the opportunity to just sit down and master CQ Researcher after it was updated. And I'm kind of embarrassed about that because the update happened about 2 or 3 years ago. So some of y'all are probably thinking, well, man, Dr. Jace, after all that time, you should have had the time to go ahead and master the updates and everything. I just haven't. There's always something else to do. But one day I'm going to do it. Maybe I can do it this summer for my fall classes. I know that doesn't really help you all, but I can still give you a superficial, I'll probably only spend like 2 or 3 minutes talking about CQ Researcher, because I can give you just basically a very superficial view of it, but also tell you why you would use it and that sort of thing. But let's start with opposing viewpoints, which has been the same for goodness knows how long. So yeah, and that's there. And all right, let's see. Okay, so you didn't like that, huh? All right, hold on, let me pause. All right, so this is what is going on here. Sorry, my recording software glitched. It does that from time to time. I apologize, but okay, let's go ahead and make me small. So this is opposing viewpoints in context. And what we are going to do is actually my recommendation when you're using this particular database is to go ahead and do the browse issues sort of thing. So you can do an advanced search over here, and I'll show you that later. But the main thing to do, I think, is really to browse issues. And here's the reason why. So you're going to see a whole lot of issues. When you come to browse issues, let's go ahead and move me right here. When you go to browse issues, you're going to see a lot, and I really do mean a lot of issues. And these are all your hot button issues that people have a lot of various opinions about. Of course, you've got your standards. Everybody knows about abortion and the death penalty. Those tend to be the things that a lot of people either do in these sort of assignments, or they're overdone so much that people are like, nah, don't even do the death penalty or abortion because I don't want to even do that. A lot of instructors are like, I don't even want to do those topics because of, they're just done to death. And when I say death penalty, it's listed here as capital punishment, but capital punishment or abortion, those tend to be, again, your biggies. And so you'll see those there, but you'll see a lot of other things as well. You'll see ableism, you'll see affirmative action, you'll see, the Afghan war. So that's a little out of date. There'll probably be one in for the Iran war soon. And as you can see, they're always updating and adding things. So I don't see anything that's new as of right now, but I see a lot of updates. So they've got updates for electric and hybrid vehicles, updates for prison, updates for socialism. Yeah, I don't see any. Oh, there's a new one. U.S. population growth. So you do have at least one new one in there. It looks like only one new one. But an update just means that there is like an overhaul of resource updates. But there are going to be new resources actually added to all of these all the time. So I don't want you to think that everything is just old if it doesn't have that updated there. Now, that's not the case. They're adding new materials into them all the time. But they may be, when they have updates, they may be updating things like the viewpoint essays themselves and things like that. So that's what you need to be aware of. But yeah, all the things, marijuana legalization, that's one that comes up. Local food movement, that's a cool one. Junk food, all these things. All right. So hazing, all your hot button issues are there. But what is neat about this database is if you go to one, so we are going to go, let's go to one that's been updated recently, these are the prisons. So when you go to one, what you end up with is an overview page. And so the overview page includes an overview essay, and the overview essay, that itself can be cited. So you got basically an overview, and the overview essay is going to be a little more balanced and that sort of thing. You are going to have Lexile numbers, which are related to how difficult they are and whether or not to read, and whether and what grade level is appropriate for reading those things. You're going to have various main ideas, all these other things. But then you can come back, and from here, you've got related topics, which is helpful. So, of course, with prisons, bail reform is a related topic, crime is a related topic, and then you can toggle to some other things, criminal justice, for-profit prisons, that's a big deal, and that sort of thing. But as you scroll down, that's when things really get helpful, because you have a division of things by resource type. So you have viewpoint essays. First of all, featured viewpoints can be very helpful. So we've got 14 featured viewpoint essays, and you can kind of access those. And some of them are going to be fairly new, which is again what I was saying with the update. When you have something updated, a lot of times your viewpoint essays are the things that are new. And as you can see, even though you have something from 2020 down here and going back to even 2017, so it looks like this is sort of in relevance, but still your dates are still they're not entirely newest first, because we do have some 2025 and 26 kind of blended in together there. But as you can see, we've got things from 2026 right here. We start out with things from 2026, and then even 2025, that's of course very recent, and you go from there. But yeah, so featured viewpoint essays can be very helpful. And then from there, you've got I am going to go back, but it's still going to just show me this, but I'm going to just go back so you can kind of see what's going on here. So I'm going to go back, and you can go back down here, and as you can see, again, from there you've got viewpoints, 314 sort of just viewpoint essay things. It's not featured viewpoints, but different opinionated pieces that are coming in from here. You can have some reference materials. We've got 208 reference materials for this particular topic, 13 biographies. I didn't know there were going to be biographies for this topic, but you learn something new and pleasant every day. Infographics, I don't really deal with those too much because a lot of times they can be out of date, but actually 2020 isn't that bad, particularly when you're dealing with something that may only be updated every 5 or every 10 years. That's actually not that bad. Stats, they can be helpful. Primary sources, and then as you get down further, academic journals is often helpful when you're dealing with college students, but a lot of times you're not going to be doing academic journals with high school or middle school students. Websites, they can be of varying helpfulness, but there is some effort to keep the website stuff fairly high quality. Magazines tend to be very, very good for your K-12 audience, and then news as well. That helps for everybody. So video and audio, that can be incorporated in presentations and things like that as well. So, and then what you can do is you can just go into these things. So let's say you do have a college student there looking for academic journals. You can go in there, click academic journals, and what you can do is, the cool thing about this database is that for the most part, the full text is going to be there. Like 95% of the time, the full text is going to be right there. You're not going to have to play with Journal Finder or any of these other things to try to get your full text. So let's say that this is useful to me for whatever reason. I just click it, and there is my full text. Now, when it's a journal article, it tends to be very long and very technical, and that is certainly the case here, especially is this coming from PLS1. Yeah, so that's coming from PLOS One, and so those are always just, and it's very recent, February of 2026. That was last month. So yeah, that's going to be long and technical, but you got your full text there, and then you've got your different tools like your download. You can download, you can print, save the Google Drive, email to yourself, that sort of thing. Save the OneDrive, all of that. So you can save it to the cloud. You can download. Again, you don't want to, there is a citation tool. I believe it's at the bottom in this database. Let me make sure. Yeah, there is a citation tool, but again, it's computer generated citations. They're only accurate about 80% of the time, which again may sound good. It's a place to start for sure. But if you have 10 sources in a paper and the resource is only accurate 80% of the time, that does mean that there's a good chance that two things are improperly formatted. But this one is actually correct. And if you paid attention to the APA two comma errors thing, a lot of times a lot of times the databases get wrong the capitalization in APA 7, but this one did it right. So kudos to them. They've got the italics and everything right there. So that's pretty cool. And then also you do have all these other articles, and so if you wanted to follow the references to get more information, to get these other things and build up a source list really quickly, you could probably find these on the EBSCO discovery tool with the main library, or you can even use Google Scholar and that sort of thing to try to dig those things up. Okay. Things aren't necessarily going to have all those references outside of academic journals. So for instance, if we're talking about magazines, click magazines here. You're still going to have that full text again, at least 95% of the time. And you do have this helpful information here about, word count, content level, which is basically the difficulty. It goes hand in hand with Lexile numbers and that sort of thing. And you'll have date and that sort of thing. So let's get something that's a little longer than 300 words. This one's a little longer. So again, you still have that full text right there. But as you can see, there's not a references list, and there's not going to be a lot of times with things aside from academic journals. And then again, like I was saying earlier, a lot of times if you wanted to put a presentation together, then that's when video and audio can come into play, because a lot of times you can download, let's see here. So yeah, a lot of times you can download the video footage and then put it in a PowerPoint or something like that. So that's what makes this resource helpful. So again, those are the main nuggets of it. And then if you want to really master this database, then the onus is going to be on you to actually go in and look at some tutorials and play around with it yourself to see what it can do. That's how you learn these databases and that sort of thing. Okay, but this one again is relevant to academic, public, and school libraries. All right, and then also let's do an advanced search here just so you can. So really, I only do advanced searches for things that don't have the browse issue categories. So this is kind of lazy, but this is what I'm thinking about right now. So let's say that you, instead of marijuana, because marijuana is actually becoming legal in a lot of places now, and Trump has rescheduled it and all the things. So that's become more of a hot button issue because of that. But there is no movement with any steam. There are movements, of course, but there's no movement with any steam about legalization of cocaine. So let's say that there is like a drug legalization thing. I think there's one. Yeah, drug legalization is right there. But let's say, well, marijuana is cool, but I want to do cocaine. So how about you want to do an argument paper on cocaine? Now, first of all, you do want to go to that drug legalization thing first, but then also this is when you would use the advanced search. So cocaine legalization, and I would do and I don't know how much I'm gonna get. Technically, keyword can get you a lot of different stuff. So this may not work, but I'm going to go to document title and hope for the best and see if there are at least some magazine and news sources for that. So cocaine legalization, maybe I'll even truncate that. Oh, that is not a truncation symbol. All right. Nope, come back and boom. And so boom, and I am going to leave that at full text. Documents contain. I'm not going to mess with all that. But these are features that you can add. But generally, you just don't need to add those features in this database. And then you click search. And yeah, news is pretty much all you're getting here. But you do have you have 3 magazines. Legalize It Cocaine, but that is on topic. Legalization of cocaine, again, on topic. This one's a little older. This one's very old. Some of you weren't even born yet. I definitely was, but some of y'all weren't. And then, yeah, this one's actually fairly recent, from 2022. And then you can get in, oh man, they are going back in time with those. Okay, because even I was born in 1983, so I'm not a young man, but I'm curious as to how far these are going back. Let me do, it doesn't give me a option for oldest first. So let me go all the way to the back here and see. I'm just curious of how old they're getting. Okay, so 1988 was the oldest. And I know a lot of you definitely weren't around in 1988. I was, but I was at least a young guy back then. I was 5. Actually, I was 4 in February 1988. Anyway, that is that database. So we're going to talk a little bit about CQ Researcher, and we're going to wrap it up from there. And I'm only going to spend maybe 3 minutes or so on CQ Researcher because, again, I have not really mastered this database myself yet. Hopefully I will over the summer and I can do it for my fall classes, but pause. All right, so let's get into it. CQ Researcher, let's come over here and bling, bling, bling. Okay, well, I'll actually accept all of the cookies. Since I tend to go into this, or should be going into this quite a bit in any library resources. Okay, so this is CQ Researcher, and again, it was so much easier to use. This isn't just CAP. I assure you this was a lot easier to use back in the day, and then they redesigned it, and now it's a complete mess in my opinion. But so you've got some topics here, and then you've got hot topics, but here's where I'll show you where CQ Researcher, in my opinion, really, really excels. So for me, CQ Researcher really excels in the pro-con area. Again, I'm talking, I told you that this is a database that is very useful when you have students who need to do things related to persuasive essays, arguments, that sort of thing. So pro-con is, again, where I feel it really excels. We are starting in A's. Let's get something. Actually, let's see if we've got that drug legalization thing going on again. Well, that's drug abuse. We have marijuana. Okay, marijuana legalization. Let's go with that. So you can have marijuana legalization, and then what you can have, oh my God, these things are super old. Okay. So what you can do is you can come here and you can get different things that are related to, so you've got the pro-con question, and with this, you get a report. I did that kind of fast, so it might not have made sense. Okay, so I'm going to leave it like that with the dates toggled there, but then should Congress repeal the federal ban on marijuana possession? That is a question that will lead you to the legalization of marijuana or legal marijuana title for so again, this is a question and this gets confusing, but the question leads you to this report here. So I'm going to click the question and we'll get to that report. And so the report comes here, legal marijuana. It's a 2023 report, so it's not that long ago, less than 3 years ago because we're not in July yet. And here's where the reports get good. So you start out with this report. The report, you scroll down, you get an overview sort of thing here. And the overview is kind of neutral. So you keep scrolling, and what is very helpful here is as you're going down, you'll get all these facts and figures, but within the facts and figures, you also get endnotes, okay? So if you click that, that will send you down to the source that it came from, and so you've got it right there. So you can be like, well, I've got some, like, let me back up. So I'm going to go back up to that thing and explain to you why that can be useful. Give me a second here. Okay, so we're going to scroll down, and let's say we get here. All right, so we get to endnote number 4. Now, let's say that you see this, and you're like, ah, man, that's some really good information, but I would really like to quote the source. I don't want to just quote this secondary sources citing something else. I really want that information in and of itself. This is very easy with CQ Researcher to get there. So you click that 4, that'll take you down to that endnote. And then you just click, yeah, okay. So sometimes that is going to happen, and when that happens, you may, again, have to use like Google Scholar or the EBSCO Discovery tool to actually find the full text. But a lot of times, you will just be able to click that link and be brought there. Let's hope that this one does it. Yes, that one doesn't. And so that way, you can build up the source list really quick by finding some information that you need, and then from there, just citing, going to the source that had that information, looking at that source, and then building a source list that way. All right, so that is the big strength of CQ Researcher, and a lot of students tend to like that as well because they get this little overview page, and then they can access that other information from there pretty easily. Now, you have a table of contents over here. Let me move this. You have on this page, we're still in the overview. You can get to background. So you get a historical setup there, and then you get to your current situation. Short features I've kind of messed with before, and so you can kind of expand these. And these will give you basic, a lot of times they're either basic little viewpoints or they are some sort of contextual information of some sort. And you've got the endnotes there as well. And then Outlook, but the big thing also here is that you can get, with these reports, you typically have a pro and con section there. And so you can see an argument in favor and an argument against. So this is somebody, Justin Streckel, he's doing something that's in favor of marijuana legalization. He's got a little essay there. And you can use that essay to establish further context and get some more information about, some supporting arguments as to why it should be legal in this case. Or if you are against the legalization, you can expand the con, and you have that there. This is somebody who wrote the essay for CQ Researcher, Kevin Sabat, and he is the president of Smart Approaches to Marijuana and a former White House drug advisory person. Usually the people who write these things are people who this is their main career, their main thing that they are in. So they know what they're talking about. Discussion questions from there can also be, so if you want to generate discussions, you got some sample questions right there, and then you have timelines, and so you can click a timeline there. That's pretty cool. So you've got a little timeline built in, and then bibliography and that sort of thing. So that is the strength of CQ Researcher, and that is something that the old interface used to really just focus on getting you those reports and having all that available, and it was so great. But now things are a little more difficult and confusing here, because now you can go into topics and hot topics and that sort of thing. New release 2024 should not be considered a new release, so I don't know what's going on there. But I don't want you all to think that this database hasn't been updated since 2024. That is absolutely not the case. But so college debt, that is definitely something that has changed since 2024. But you've got some basic information here. This this isn't a report, this is just hot topics, and I don't find the hot topics to be as useful as the reports, but who knows, maybe after I actually learn the database I will be able to find the hot topics to be just as useful as the reports, but I'm not there yet. Okay, but yeah, so I leave you with that overview. But if you can find a tutorial on the CQ Researcher updates, then by all means go ahead and use that. That's going to be something that you can use to your strength. And yes, these are the two databases that you are going to use that I recommend you point students to, as well as Academic Search Premier and that sort of thing. When you have students that are doing persuasive essays, persuasive speeches, when they're on debates and things of that nature. So I hope you found that helpful. I also hope you sped this up. But with that said, my time is up at this point. I am Dr. Jace, and a debate is kind of like a race, maybe. So this is something that can help you with fulfilling that race, or winning that race, winning that debate. Who knows? All right, I'll see you next week with another check-in video, and we will have check-in videos related to resources from here on out. Take care.